Hello, I'm MovieHanger, and today I'll tell you the plot of the horror movie It Follows. A girl becomes infected with a sexually transmitted curse and tries to survive. The movie starts with a girl running down a city street, trying to escape from an unknown entity. She takes a car and drives to the beach. Realizing that she won't be able to save herself, she decides to call her parents for a final goodbye. The girl apologizes for her bad behavior and tells them she loves them. The next morning, her mutilated body is found. The focus shifts to a college student named Jay. One day, her friends invite her to watch a movie with them, but she declines because she needs to prepare for a long-awaited date with a guy she recently met. Hugh is an attractive young man who didn't raise any suspicions and seemed quite nice to Jay. When they arrive at the movie theater, the couple starts playing a game. The rules are simple. One person picks someone from the crowd, and the other has to guess who was picked. When Jay chose someone, Hugh picked a girl in a yellow dress, but Jay couldn't see this person, after which Hugh tells that couple need to leave this place. This seemed strange to her. However, she didn't give it much thought. After the first date, Jay returns home and shares her impressions with her sister Kelly. Soon, it's time for the second date, and the couple decides to give in to their passions in Hugh's car. Afterward, Jay reminisces about her childhood dreams and realizes that events that once seemed extraordinarily important now feel different. She shares these thoughts with her new boyfriend, but unexpectedly, Hugh chloroforms her. When Jay comes to, she realizes she is in an abandoned building, tied to a chair and unable to move. Her would-be boyfriend calms her down.
What are you doing?
Don't worry, I'm not gonna hurt you.
And explains why he did this to her. It turns out he was under a terrible curse, where a relentless entity was constantly pursuing him. For this reason, he was always running from the monster. And on their first date, the girl in the yellow dress that Jay couldn't see was it. If the entity catches its victim, it kills them. And the only way to escape is to pass the curse to someone else. For Jay, this means she has to sleep with someone. However, there's no permanent escape, as if the current victim dies, the entity will come after the previous target again. Initially, Jay doesn't believe Hugh, thinking his words are nonsense and that he is insane, but he brought her to the building to show her the monster. A few minutes later, Jay notices a naked woman slowly moving towards her from outside. Hugh then takes Jay to her house, where he dumps her out of the car and drives away. Jay tells everything to her sister and friends, who then call the police. The police go to the address Jay says Hugh lives at, but upon arriving, it becomes clear that the address is fake, and neither the guy nor the naked woman is there. Jay continues her usual routine and goes to school. During a lecture, she acts quite detached and soon notices it, which has transformed into an elderly woman, outside the window. Realizing the entity is moving towards her, she gathers her things and hurriedly leaves the classroom, only to see her pursuer in the hallway as well. She starts screaming, but those around her don't understand whom she's pointing at.
Hello? Hello?
Jay is horrified because Hugh's words turned out to be true. She reaches store where her friend's working at and once again tells her loved ones about her problem. So her friends Paul and Yara decide to spend the night at her house to be nearby and help if needed, and Jay and Kelly agree. At night, Jay can't sleep and goes down to the living room to be with Paul. Paul, who has been in love with Jay for a long time, tries to cheer her up by telling funny stories from their shared past. Just when Jay almost forgets about her problems, the sound of breaking glass is heard. Someone has shattered a window in the kitchen and is likely walking through the house now. Paul runs upstairs to wake the others, while Jay decides to walk around and check things out. Moments later, she sees the entity in the form of a woman still trying to touch her. Jay screams and runs to the others' room, telling them everything, but they can't see what she sees, making it hard for them to understand what she's talking about. After a while, it enters the bedroom again, but in a different form, causing Jay to flee from the house. Soon, the group finds Jay at a playground and tries to figure out what to do next. Moments later, Jay sees her neighbor Greg, but fears that it might be the entity again. However, the guy turns out to be real. Learning about what's happening, the old friend offers his help and brings his car to take them as far away as possible. They end up at the old house of the guy who passed the curse to her. Among adult magazines, they find a photo of Hugh and get an idea of where to start looking for him. They want to find him and ask about the entity, so they track down his old school. The friends manage to find records in the archive and obtain his real address. Once there, Jay and the others ask Hugh, whose real name is different.
Real name is Jeff.
to tell them everything he knows about the monster pursuing her. It turns out he knows very little. It all started after he slept with a stranger from a club. He realized then that the curse is passed to whoever the pursued person sleeps with. But if the new victim dies, the entity will return to the previous target. That's why he started dating Jay and slept with her.
Jeff, I don't believe you.
The guy also mentions that the monster is quite intelligent. It never runs and seems to enjoy the slow hunt. Seeing a girl slowly approaching, the guy initially thinks she's the monster, but she turns out to be real.
Do you guys see that girl right there?
Uh-huh. Yes.
The guy apologizes and advises Jay to pass the curse to someone else.
I mean, it should be easy for her. She's a girl.
But she doesn't want to put her loved ones in such danger. In search of a safe place, Greg takes them to his parents' house by the lake, where he teaches Jay how to shoot a revolver so she can protect herself. He believes this skill will help her feel more confident and less afraid. The group is sitting on the beach when suddenly Jay's hair is lifted into the air. She tries to fend off the demon, but all attempts are futile. Paul comes to her aid, grabs a chair, and smashes it over the invisible back of the demon, but it throws him aside. However, this gives Jay and the others enough time to hide in the house. They lock the door, but the entity still manages to get into the room. Jay decides not to wait for her friends, steals Greg's car, and drives off into the unknown. Moments later, she loses control and ends up in a cornfield, where she loses consciousness. Here's the moment when you can pause and watch the entire movie yourself, because what follows includes the climax and spoilers. But before that, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Jay wakes up in the hospital and finds that she has broken her arm. She looks around cautiously, but doesn't see anything suspicious. The others start to believe Jay's story because Paul even has bruises from when he tried to save her. However, Greg remains skeptical and decides to have sex with Jay to prove to everyone that there is no monster. No one tries to dissuade him. For several days, nothing happens to Greg, and everyone begins to think that Jay made up the monster, but things turn out to be more complicated. One day, Jay looks out the window and sees someone breaking a window in Greg's house. Realizing that it is it, she rushes to help her friend. When she gets close to his room, she sees Greg's half-naked mother, who is actually the demon. Jay tries to warn Greg, but she's too late. Greg opens the door, and the entity attacks and kills him brutally. The girl, sobbing, drives as far as she can because the creature will now be chasing her. Having driven far enough, she spends the night on the hood of her car. In the morning, stepping onto the beach, she sees a yacht with 3 men on it. To buy herself some time, she decides to pass the curse on to them and swims towards them. After that, she drives home and falls asleep on the floor. Paul comes in, and they start a conversation. Paul tries to understand why Jay chose to pass the curse to Greg instead of him, as both he and Greg were in love with her. He learns that Jay had already slept with Greg in the past, and since Greg wasn't afraid of the monster, she decided to pass the curse to him. Realizing that it is now after Jay again, Paul offers to sleep with her, but Jay refuses. The next day, the group decides to come up with a plan to destroy the entity once and for all. They head to a large swimming pool. According to the plan, Jay is supposed to lure the monster into the water, while the others throw electrical appliances into the pool to electrocute it. They hope this will eliminate it permanently. Jay gets into the water and sees the monster, but it doesn't hurry to enter the pool. Instead, it starts throwing electrical appliances at her. The group tries to figure out where it is to shoot it in the head, but they can't see it, and all the clues aren't helping them find the target. Eventually, using bed sheets, they manage to determine its location. Paul shoots at it, but it's not immediately disabled. After several shots, the monster finally falls into the pool. Jay tries to swim to the surface, but it grabs her leg. Paul continues shooting and eventually hits the monster. Jay gets out of the pool and sees the water gradually turning red. The group thinks they have finally managed to eliminate the supernatural entity. Soon after, Paul and Jay making love, after which they try to understand whether something has changed. Jay might have passed the curse to him, but neither of them feels any different. Later, Paul drives around the city looking for prostitutes in case the monster wasn't truly defeated, but he doesn't stop. Eventually, Jay and Paul walk down the street holding hands, followed by a distant silhouette. Thank you guys for 500 subscribers. That's all for today. Like the video, subscribe, and have a great day.